November 26th, 1986. The day a saint came to Sydney.
Yeah, well it did. He did change Australia forever. I mean, that was historic.
It's a moment etched in the hearts of the many thousands who were there.
Sent a shiver down my spine when he went past. It was something you don't forget.
The day Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul the Great, brought the faith to the streets of Western Sydney.
Couldn't believe my eyes. I said the Pope came here. Couldn't believe.
To speak at a migrant-run steel factory called TRANSFIELD in a tiny suburb called Seven Hills, changing the lives of those he encountered forever.
Yes, I shook hands with a saint.
40 years later, St. John Paul II's warmth and humanity is still being felt.
That visit still fills me with a great degree of awe that the Pontiff would come to Blacktown, to Seven Hills, and speak to us.
From the moment he touched down in a footy field in Blacktown, his signature common touch was on full display.
And so natural. And I don't think we'd had a pontiff like that before.
Climbing aboard his famous Pope-mobile, Pope John Paul did what he did best. He took the church to his followers.
I mean, it was pretty cool to have the Pope-mobile out here too, and that was huge. And, you know, that was the reason that he was able to go through the streets and we were able to see him.
And the faithful and the curious lined the streets in their thousands.
He was akin to a pop star. There was a charisma about him, a charisma that he exuded.
He actually came among the people, and that was the thing.
Helen Stain and her two children, Chris and Rebecca, were one of the thousands lining the streets of Blacktown, waiting for a glimpse of the famous pontiff.
And we stood there and we were pretty much just us. And he came down past Kmart, and we were the kids. I'm saying, look, here he comes, and they were very excited. And as he came past, it just slowed right down, and he looked down at these four little kids who were waving madly. He, you know, gave them a blessing, and as he drove off, I wanted to say, excuse me, I brought these children here. What about me?
It just seemed unreal. And then he looked straight at us.
Carmen Mikulev and her two daughters also found themselves face to face with the Pope.
More people, all on the bridge. It was full of people. And I was standing there by myself and he went straight at us. So exciting. It was the greatest thing in my life, yeah. I had my son 2 weeks later and we named him John Paul.
Back at Transfield, young and old gathered to meet the Pope. Inside, a young 20-year-old Sergio Rosado.
I was there with my father, who was an employee. It was an immigrant company, and it was a family. So he would have heard of that, and it would have been a place that he would have selected because of that multicultural flavour.
It's surreal now, looking back at it.
Enjoying the big band inside the huge factory was a then 11-year-old Richard Galuzzi.
I remember it was warm because I think it was November. I think also seeing some of the faces that I'd seen on TV, like some of the politicians. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation.
With hard hat on, accompanied by Bishop Bede Heather, the Pope made his way through the Transfield gates.
I think there was a palpable sense of euphoria, and predominantly we're talking about Southern European people that tend to get a bit emotional anyway.
Once you sort of start walking through the factory, we were more like a barrier where we had to hold hands with our other workmates and stop people from coming through.
In 1986, Lou Pacchiarotto was a 17-year-old mechanic enlisted as security for the Pope as he made his way to meet the workers.
Everyone was sort of screaming, but then once you actually saw him, yes, you did get a chill through your body to see the Pope, and then he sort of got closer and closer and closer. Everyone's trying to put their hand through, to try to shake hands with him, but for some reason he went to me and I shook his hand. So that's where I felt, oh, this is pretty amazing. I was one of the lucky ones, or you could say blessed ones if you want to call it that way. I asked Mum if you have any photos. She said no, she didn't have any photos. So I don't know about other people if they've got photos or not.
I said to the girls, "Where's Dad? It's Reg, she's there."
Patricia Burns's husband, Reg, was one of the fortunate few to be photographed with the Pope.
He was thrilled. He was thrilled. He was, to think that he could actually be so close, and he was given that, they had the job, they were marshals.
Until the day he died. It's a moment he never forgot.
He couldn't believe that they had chosen him to go and meet the Pope, that he would be that person there. You know, there were other people there, but he was there and he was able to be so close to the Pope. I'd say that it was one of the best things that ever happened to Reg.
The Pope then took to the makeshift stage to speak to the workers.
Like, he was still a very strong man physically at that stage. And when he spoke, the first things that I remember him saying was to us there, that he too had been a worker, and that work is good because it brings man into the co-creation space with God. So that work wasn't just about making money to buy the necessities of life. Work was about co-creating the kingdom of God through work each day. And that was an incredible statement to make.
In the audience was Carmen Miklev's husband, Charlie.
In certain time you could hear a needle dropping in there. So quiet, people were waiting for the Pope to talk. So many people, but silence, complete silence. You can touch the faith sort of. They were listening to him because they thought he's a saint already.
Australia is a great country. I am very happy for this opportunity of being in a factory. People need to work, not just to earn money for the necessities of life, but also to fulfill their calling, to share in the creative activity of God. The human satisfaction that comes from work well done shows how profoundly the Creator has inscribed the law of work in the heart of man.
So in speaking to us, he was able to reinforce with all of those that were there that our story, the migrant story, was a noble story, and link it back to God, so that we were working in partnership with God. So it was an amazing speech.
Historically, not just for Catholic Australia, but for Australia, a really important day for us.
And just like that, the day was over. But the legacy of the Pope's visit still lingers 40 years later. Today, we need his timeless wisdom more than ever. And 40 years later, his spirit lives on in his theology of the body. St. John Paul the Great's intimate and transformative writings on gender, marriage and family are coming back to our shores.
Incredible, life-changing, awesome.
It's the unsung good news story of our faith and of our world, of our life, and it applies to absolutely everyone.
Life-changing actually doesn't suffice.
Come, see, and be inspired.